that's new. I'll give a name, something new and true that's new creation. Until the day we come to feel the same. I'll keep you close, all this love and hope for this sensation. Take a leap of faith within my heart, and this is my start.
Welcome, Ultrers and Switchy Sisters alike, to episode 27 of the weekly episodic gaming-adjacent livestream podcast show. This is Switch to Ultra, back on Mondays until the end of time itself. Quite honestly, this one will likely be on the shorter side of things. I just released a new video Tuesday night that still feels like so long ago, even though it was just a handful of days. And both Switchy and I have had very busy Octobers to start. Most of what we have to talk about are updates carried over from previous weeks, and after tonight, we will have one more episode of Switch to Ultra before the release of Pokemon Legends ZA. And I personally am going to try to fully complete Donkey Kong Bonanza on stream by that point. Welcome to the Switch to Ultra family. I am your co-parent, BH Ultra.
And I am your co-parent, Switchy.
Oh, you're a little quiet. Do I need to turn you up?
Give me a sec.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm a little higher now.
I think I should just turn up Discord in general. I've been hosting regular movie nights in the Discord, and I have to remember that whenever we watch anything in the server, that is going to be partial people watching, but mostly people talking over it. We have everyone locked in for new Smiling Friends, though. Now we're back in Smiling Friends season. Those are going to be coming out each week. I don't think we have any inherent reviews like we did when we had to discuss South Park. I feel like the excitement of South Park coming out weekly for that first episode that people were talking about, like, oh man, this is the big deal. And then since then, it sort of petered out. I don't know if that's because they, like, missed a due date and then had to delay it another week, or if just, like, maybe that first episode seemed a lot bigger than the rest of the season is. I feel like every time South Park comes back, I'm like, oh man, the show is so back. And then the rest of the season happens, I'm like, oh yeah, that's okay. I kind of forget, and it fades into the background.
I'd predict that at least for this this run, and to be fair, I haven't actually seen the episodes yet. At the very, like, I think the headlines have come and gone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The kind of season is focused on Donald Trump, or at least it has been so far.
Yeah.
But, like, no one needs to go on the news or kind of write an article, oh, South Park is making fun of Donald Trump. You know, it's like, we already know that. You know what I mean? So I think,
now
I think
we
it's
know
not...
that the show is cursed because they had a fake Charlie Kirk on the series.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest. Like, it was kind of eerie in a certain way. Just like, I don't know. I guess I had forgotten that Charlie Kirk was as big as he was, if that makes sense. Because I remember like the Turning Point memes from like 2019, and like I kind of didn't realize that Turning Point had become like the biggest campus politics organization like ever. I didn't realize it was as big as it was.
You didn't know that it was big enough to be on South Park, or you didn't expect the reaction?
I didn't think Charlie Kirk was big enough to be on South Park. I guess that's the best way of putting it.
Well, my thing is that, like,
it's like maybe being on South Park.
Yeah, maybe we're a little older now, so it's like a weird comparison. But whenever they had an episode like spoofing Pokemon or Let's Players like PewDiePie, it was like, whoa, they're covering like this huge story. Whereas now, if those kind of things happen, I imagine, I mean, when they covered Pokemon, it was less of a trend by that point. It was still a trend, but it had been around for a while. So, like, the episode following their Charlie Kirk parody, they immediately do, like, a Labubu episode. That one also feels like, I know everything in general, trends in general, nowadays, like, move a lot faster. But it feels like these episodes are going to age a lot more poorly. Or maybe it just feels like that, right? Maybe people who are watching South Park at the time were like, oh, they're referencing Pokemon? Oh, man, this is going to be dated. So who knows? Like, maybe this stuff will stick around. That's always been my thing with Labubu's, is that I'm totally fine with them aesthetically and conceptually, but not to sound like a hipster, but I feel like all the people who are like really interested in them are gonna just throw them away by like next year. So I hope they stick around. I hope I'm proven wrong and people still really like them. But I can envision them all being in a landfill somewhere in like a year's time.
Yeah. I think one thing that people often forget is that things might age badly at first, but I think, a lot of the time they end up kind of fun in an antiquated way.
Yeah.
I forgot who the rapper was, but, I think for example, douche versus turd.
Yes.
I think I should clarify that I have not kept up with South Park in years. I kind of fell out of it in like 2018, but before that I'd seen every episode. And there's the douche versus turd episode, and that was 2004, I'm pretty sure. I think it was like season 8 of the show. And that was the George Bush, God, who was he going against?
Is it Al Gore?
Either Al Gore or like John Kerry. I forget. I'm not. I
Bunch
don't
of
know anything.
nobodies. They're losers, is what they are.
But like, yeah, I mean, I know who won.
You're right.
But I mean, that was like an episode that was, frankly, a very 2004 look at politics. And I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way. It was just very reflective of issues at the time, how things were talked about at the time. And, you have the whole vote or die thing. I forgot who the rapper was that was featured. Let me search that up.
But like, I get what you're saying. It's to a lesser.
Oh,
and,
it was
like...
P. Diddy. It was P.
Oh, okay.
I was like thinking it might have been PETA, but I didn't want to claim to be sure.
Right.
And also there was PETA in that episode. There's often like South Park, what they'll do with episodes, especially regarding current events, I think honestly more now so than ever, they'll often merge a bunch of random shit going on in like a weird way. And I think sometimes like it's kind of fun to look back at, 10 years later.
It's a fun time capsule. And there are things that have been more dated, like in the server, which I do this every October. Shameless plug. Been watching different Halloween adjacent like spooky movies every night at midnight throughout October. And last night we watched Halloween Town 2 because that's something I covered on my channel like in the childhood trauma video. And I forgot like how much that movie came out in 2001 and it feels so much like it. Like, the movie opens with Marnie, like, on a computer, and she's, like, explaining computers to her parents, and everything is, like, very Y2K. Like, she solves the movie by combining her understanding of computers to use it in magic. She has, like, a sleek chrome broom with handles, and then the movie ends with the grandma witch being like, now, this World Wide Web, does that involve spiders? Like, it's very clearly a movie made, like, oh, kids love computer now. They're always on computer.
Yeah. I think one thing that really blew my mind was when in 2013, if I recall correctly, South Park made an episode about Minecraft. It was the episode where like all the parents were watching basically like trashy kind of like murder like fiction TV or whatever. And like Minecraft was a part of it, in some ways, like when you describe it that way, it sounds really kitschy. I think it's still a pretty funny episode.
But as a kid, it's like, whoa, it's referencing this thing I know.
Yeah, I mean, they have the benefit because they, their turnaround time is so short compared to other shows. Like, I think they were probably one of the first big shows to even acknowledge Minecraft existed. You know what I mean? I think Mad was like the only other show that I knew that brought up Minecraft.
With
you know
Mark
what I mean?
Zuckerberg, yeah. That's crazy in retrospect that, because Mad was probably not nearly as not cheap, but like efficient as South Park. The fact that Mad was able to cover current events, like I didn't even think about that. That's probably like has a longer cycle.
I mean, I think maybe like if Mad had done South Park, Minecraft first, it was probably in like 2012. So the game had already officially released. So maybe like, maybe someone was a beta player. I don't know.
Yeah. Or, the sketches we remember are the ones that stuck around, whereas there's probably like dozens of sketches that were referencing a movie that came out like a year prior that nobody saw.
Oh, yeah.
Something akin to that. Somebody in the server asked the other night, like, if, because it's a slightly older generation, like, asking me, or just the generation, how we feel about SNL, like if we think it got bad or like it was best at a certain era. Whereas I think I don't even feel that strongly about SNL. I respect it more as an American institution than I do like watching it as a show. But I think anyone who says like, oh, the show used to be much better and then it got bad around this era is sort of lying to themselves, or they're just misremembering because they experience it through like YouTube clips. Like if there's a specific sketch they want, they'll just look up that sketch and they're remembering all the best moments. Whereas I think what's great about SNL is they just throw a bunch of bullshit at the wall and maybe get like one really good sketch every other episode. And I think that's what is the lifeblood of the show. And I think the idea that like, oh man, it used to be so good and then it fell off. I've never watched the show weekly, so I guess I don't have a dog in this fight or a horse in this race. But that's always been my stance about it.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, a similar example, I would say, and this is probably a little bit more controversial because there was a period where I think like the premises of the show were getting really stupid.
Yeah.
Family Guy. You know, I think Family Guy has become very samey over the years. I mean, they have over 20 seasons now, I'm pretty sure, or they're pushing 20. And I think my favorite era was the early stuff, but it doesn't mean that they don't occasionally have like a funny, memorable cutaway gag, you know? Because I think Family Guy in a lot of ways is just like almost a sketch comedy show in the way, you know, like the whole cutaway gags are often the most memorable parts of the show, of the episodes. So like occasionally, you know, they sometimes hit, like even with the newer episodes. And I don't know. I feel like sometimes people kind of pretend that everything after, let's say, season 7 is just terrible. And I think it's always more complicated than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also like a broken clock. Like, it's impossible that every episode was bad after a certain point. Like, they're going to make something good. And I feel like we've talked about this before. Maybe it's a point I made in a different video or a different call or something that... And this is not like saying anything about there are people I'm friends with in the cartoon community who will defend Modern Family Guy or Teen Titans Go or anything like that. That I will see people be like, no, this show's actually good. And they'll prove that by posting like a 30-second clip to Twitter that goes viral. It's like, oh, the show's actually funny. It's like, okay, but the show isn't a 30-second clip. Like there's more to it. Would you sit down and watch an episode? I don't think so. Yeah, but we now have these weekly Smiling Friends episodes. I guess that's what started the discussion. So, I guess I could, I don't think I'm going to update the consumption list on here. I think I'm going to do it more for Patreon. I forgot that I need to place Gumball and King of the Hill now because I've fully finished those new seasons because they dropped them all at once, but I like watching them weekly. I don't even know where I would put them, but I finished those shows and we're watching like, not old, but like movies you can find on streaming, Halloween movies, throughout the server. But as far as movies go, I haven't seen any new releases between the previous episode of Switch to Ultra and now. What I've been doing mostly, because it's October and I have a lot more time off or time to myself, that we've been seeing re-releases in theaters. And tomorrow I think we're going to go see the live-action Casper movie. Because I know there's a point I bring up in a later video.
Was that the one where they say the B word like several times to get a PG rating?
Oh, I don't know. I just know the one where it's like the only time they give Casper a backstory, and you have to, like, you can't give Casper a backstory that isn't like horrific and sad because he's a dead kid. So the movie like does their best. I mean, they don't sugarcoat it. They're like, yeah, no, this kid is dead. He died as a kid. Whereas in like the cartoons or something, they don't ever really bother asking the question of how he became a child ghost.
Like Luigi's Mansion, he was born a ghost or something.
Yeah, if I was born a baby, if I was a dead baby, I'd be pissed too. No wonder he's a boss fight. But we saw A Nightmare. It's called A Nightmare on Elm Street. I didn't know about the A. On the first day of October. And I think that was another one we watched last year, but I wasn't fully like locked into it. And I will say for that one that there is, maybe I'm spoiled by like elevated horror, but whenever I was like thinking about it afterwards, I was like, yeah, that was fun. It's not something I would describe as like really good though. I think maybe if I saw it at the time, if I was like a teenager seeing it in theaters, I'd be like, whoa, this is the creepiest shit ever. But it's just like fun. And I think we've talked about the topic before on the show where I kind of really have a disdain for slasher, like horror fans who will defend movies that are just bad by saying like, oh no, it's camp. What, you don't like fun? I prefer to turn my brain off, and I hate that term too, is turning your brain off to watch something. I mean, you could watch things passively or kind of like not really engage with them earnestly, but the idea that you prefer to watch movies that don't make you think, I think really like maybe upsets me more than it should. Because I know a lot of people like that just will like, not even that those movies are unchallenging, just the fact that, anyway, that movie doesn't apply to that because I like that movie, but every time Freddy Krueger is the only person in that movie who refers to himself as Freddy. Everyone else in that movie calls him by, they say very officially, they call him Fred Krueger. And in the opening credits, it says this character, introducing this character as Fred Krueger. So I guess like he really wanted Freddy to catch on, and it eventually did. There are a lot of, I think it is in that genre of horror movies where the first one is good or fun or interesting because of the intrigue and the deniability, right? I think the best parts of a lot of horror movies are less about this monster is going to kill you and more, am I losing my mind? And the ending is pretty ambiguous. But when you have sequels to that series where it's like, oh, Freddy's going to come back. And of course that's going to happen when it's a popular movie. They're always going to have sequels, and I would rather movies be made than not. But now they got like the Black Phone 2 coming out, and maybe in like a couple of days or maybe in like a week or so. Maybe I will see that one because I thought Black Phone 1 was okay. But it is not a movie that facilitates a sequel. And like A Nightmare on Elm Street and even like Child's Play, I thought, have you ever seen the Child's Play movies? The Chucky movies?
No. I mean, I admittedly, like, I maybe I'm just, I don't like slasher films.
That's fair.
I mean,
yeah.
like, I mean, I think maybe I'm just maybe I'm just a pussy. Like, what I will say is there's no catharsis in me for like gore in movies. You know, like there's just like because I think that's a part of things like especially like Terrifier. I think a big part of that is like there's something fun about watching, you know, these kinds of very gruesome special effects like death things. But I don't know, for me, like I mean, it's gross, and it also often just makes me kind of sad. Like,
interesting.
I think like, I mean, I think people who really like those movies, like, they don't really
they're sick in the head.
They should be locked up in like a meaningful way. Like they kind of just see them as people who exist literally just to die, which in some ways the characters are literally made just to die. But I don't know, it just bums me out. Like I'll see a character die and I'm like, man, that person probably had a family. Like I think I'm just I just can't like there's just I don't know. I think I'm just too touchy about it. Like I don't know. I remember
exact opposite where I'm on the very other end of the spectrum where I just don't care about any of it at all. Like it's not even that like I'm scared or offended by the gore. It's just that like I don't think it. Maybe I've seen a scene or two in a movie where like someone getting their head blown off was like really cathartic because like, oh, that character really deserved it. But I've never seen like gore in a movie and be like, oh dude, that's fucking awesome. It just does nothing for me. It doesn't wow me. Unless it's like practical effects that look cool on occasion.
Even then, like I don't think it's much for me. I mean, because the thing is, I don't think I dislike necessarily you know, entertainment with, you know, like you know, death on the table. I mean, I think as a kid and even now, I think one of my favorite shows is Dexter, and that's like literally a show about a guy who like, you know, slits people's throats and shit. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, all things considered, like that show, they don't like leave you hanging and like keep the camera on like dead people for long periods of time. So it's kind of different in that sense. Like it's not really, you know, and you know because yeah, I'm thinking about like I saw Terrifier, or I saw most of it last year,
I think
and
those are
like
so boring.
And it just I just kind of saw it, and it just kind of made my stomach churn. Like I don't know. I mean, I think like I'm not. I guess I mean, you could say I'm scared of it. I don't know. It just like it's just not fun for me to watch. It just kind of bums me out. I don't know.
Well, there's also something to be said that like if you don't identify or care about the characters, then like it is sort of just like senseless anyway. I do want to retract what I said a little bit though, because now that I'm thinking back, there were a lot of like visual kills in A Nightmare on Elm Street that I do think were striking and were done very like.
Yeah,
I know I have like
mean,
a real
I've seen
hard
the
on for
third one,
practical
and,
effects, but like some of it did look really cool.
Mhm.
You're saying the third one?
Well, so I've seen the third one, and that one takes place at like a mental hospital.
Okay.
And like they definitely kind of kill people in like creative thematic ways. But like still, it's just I don't know. It's still bums me out, I guess. I don't know.
I
Like,
think not to compare like me horror versus you horror or whatever, but I do think the appeal of movies like that are like every time there's a sequel, like the 20th Saw movie, you're in it to see the creative kills or whatever they do. And I mean, I guess earlier this year I did watch all the Final Destination films leading up to the new one, and I think this is the first case where like I've done that and I've liked the newest one more, like 2025.
Oh, really?
Final Destination Bloodlines, because it's the first one where I liked the characters and didn't want to see them die. But then there's I think whereas a movie like Scream or a series like Scream, you're not going into it to be like, oh boy, I can't wait to see like the way Ghostface kills them now. It's more about the mystery aspect than it is like the killing in general.
Yeah, because like someone is secretly Ghostface, right?
Yeah,
So it's
I
just
think
kind of-
that's more
yeah.
fun. But I have no
Yeah,
intention
no,
of seeing them.
I like mysteries and stuff like that. So I think that's always been more interesting to me than like specifically, this person gets killed in this like fucked up way. Like
I think
like,
eeriness
that's just,
it is a lot more of a nice little treat when you're watching things like that. And again, it's really hard to sound pretentious when you're talking about elevated horror, but I feel like I'm at the point where like I can from an aesthetic point appreciate these slasher movies. Maybe at least like the first in each series. That's what I wanted to say about Chucky and Child's Play, is that I thought going into the first Child's Play movie that the plot of the movie was that we see this kid and his doll, and then everyone is killed off screen, and we don't really see what's happening. So there's a little bit of deniability to be like, oh man, maybe this kid is like deranged and he's blaming it on his doll. And then in the third act, it's revealed to be a doll, and it's like, whoa, that's crazy. And thus, every time there's a sequel, it doesn't have the same effect because we know it's the doll. Come to watch the movie for the first time last year, and the opening scene is the murderer guy putting his soul inside the doll. I guess I have to assume that was like a studio note or something, that somebody was like, oh, we have to explain why there's a murderous doll. Like, it can't just be, it has to have like a reason. So the opening of the movie kind of, at least in my opinion, kind of ruins the whole, I don't know if it was meant to be a twist, but there are shots in the movie that sort of make it seem like it's leaning in that direction. And it makes it even more upsetting that the opening of the film is like, yeah, we have to explain how this guy used magic to put his soul in a doll, which I feel like doesn't even really explain it that much anyway.
Yeah, no, honestly, there's something to be said about like how many good stories are out there that don't need to be continued and have context added.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, do we really need like a consistent set of cause and effects that put this whole story in motion? Like, as you said, I think there's probably a benefit of the intrigue and mystery about Chucky as a character. Like, what is he? Does he exist? Et cetera, et cetera. And then it just becomes, oh, well, he definitely exists.
Yeah, but that's another character that has
another
since
8
become
movies.
like, I get that camp I can respect because it is just like a lot of like queer teens that have sort of identified with these characters a lot, that it's more fun. I will say though, sometimes when it comes to like fandoms, like it's fandoms made up of teens that are inclusive fandoms, but really like something violent, like a slasher movie. I don't want to imply that like death metal is violent inherently, but like, the meme of like, oh, we're such an accepting community, but we love this violent thing. But then sometimes it sort of like characterizes the thing they're watching, where they'll be watching like a horror movie and the slasher will like kill a dog or like punch a pregnant woman or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, well, this is too far, they wouldn't do that. It's like, well, they're a murderer. Yes, they would.
Yeah. That's actually interesting. I remember like there's this horror movie about a dog coming out, and there was discourse about the fact that people seem to be so bothered by dog characters dying and not necessarily people characters. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think a lot of people associate animals with like innocence and purity, and people not so much. And I think that's a big part of it.
Well, this is
so,
what
like,
I was playing the new Bethesda Indiana Jones game, where the first-person Indiana Jones game, we have to fight off Nazis, And on occasion, the Nazis will like have a dog that is attacking
Aw.
you. But yeah, exactly. But because there are indexes all over the internet telling people if the piece of art or piece of media you can kill a dog in it or not, that when the dogs attack you, you cannot kill these dogs. You have to like bash buttons to fight them off or like whip your whip to scare them. And I understand that people don't want dog dismemberment in their game, but it's like, well, first of all, these dogs are Nazis, so I don't feel bad. Second of all, like it's annoying mechanically that you can't. I don't want to say that I want to shoot the dogs, but at that point, like, why even have dogs in the game?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's
Yeah,
other...
the only game where I like hitting dogs is Earthbound.
Yeah, because then it could start a whole thing about it. But, I mean, if we're talking about studio notes a little bit, I'm just going to go over the other movies I saw for the first time in theaters, because this is something I had a discussion with family members about, that I know there are a lot of people, like, around our age that really just will wait to see a movie on streaming. Like, they just don't like going to the theater at all. They don't like the experience. They think it's more convenient. Granted, it is more convenient to watch it at home and probably more affordable. This is going to sound like a crutch. I find it harder to focus when I'm watching a movie at home. Like, just from, like, an attention standpoint. That, like, I know other people, like, around our generation that will say, like, oh, I can't really, like, oh, man, my attention span is so shot. And what they're referring to is watching a movie on their laptop while scrolling on their phone. I can't say that, like, I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh, you're depressed? Just be happy. Just go outside, touch grass. Oh, you have ADHD? Just lock in, focus, you know, because it's not that simple. However, I do think a lot of these people that say that if they went to the theater, they would, like, it facilitates focus because there is societal pressure for you to not focus on anything else. And you're in a giant dark room where the music and sound is so loud it's overpowering. And the only thing illuminating the screen or the room is the screen. So I like to see these re-releases, and it's the reason why every time someone brings up a movie that like everyone has seen, I'm like, oh, I haven't seen it. Because I need to be in a correct headspace to see a movie. I can't just like put it on in the background while doing other stuff, because not that it's disrespectful, but I know I'm not going to retain any of the information if I do that. That being said, on top of, or I guess between A Nightmare on Elm Street and tomorrow when we're going to see Casper, last 3 days we've been going to the theater, and I watched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 in theaters, and I'd never seen those movies before.
Wow, you hadn't?
I know, exactly. Like, at any point I was like, I didn't grow up with them. I wasn't like a superhero kid. I didn't like action in general when I was a kid. Like, whenever Cartoon Network had those action blocks, I would not watch those shows. Even
no,
like
me neither. I thought that was for like meatheads. I was too much of a girl for it or
even
something.
back then it was like sports ball. Yeah,
like sports ball.
I loved Star Wars, but even
boomer.
like Clone Wars, I didn't care for. And I don't know.
I didn't watch Avatar until I was 12 because I saw the show. I saw like trailers for it, and like I don't know, my 7-year-old self was like, "That's stupid."
And even nowadays, people like, I don't want to say they misappropriate Avatar a little bit. And the same thing is sort of happening with the Amazing Digital Circus now, where everyone is playing up the drama and the theories and the lore and the characters, that they fail to mention that the show just is funny. And it's the same thing with Avatar, that I guess the idea is that there are people who really like animation, right? Cartoons or anime. And they want other people to respect the medium. But in order to do so, they believe that the thing they're talking about either needs to be adult or serious. So instead of being like, oh, it's a cartoon and it's really good, it has really good writing, they say like, oh, it's a cartoon, but it's not like those other silly cartoons. Like, this one's actually good and serious. Yeah. And that bugs me a little bit. Like, I understand their heart's in the right place, that they want to like cartoons and they want other people to respect animation as a medium. But this happens a lot with video games, with wrestling, with cartoons, that people sort of misunderstand and misappropriate, and they think that for something to be taken seriously, that thing needs to be serious. So when people talk about video games as an art form, more often than not, they're not saying like, oh yeah, like fantastically made games like this Mario game or this Kirby game or whatever, or like Halo, like, oh, these are pieces of art because they are really good games, and you're judging them by that metric. Instead, they're choosing games that are, I don't want to say they aren't games, but are leaning more cinematic. They're more
Yeah.
movies. They're contextualizing video game art that way. They're like, oh, video games are art because this video game specifically has a really good story and cutscenes. And I think that's a little bit of a misnomer and sort of like not proving their point, because then it sort of mischaracterizes other games that don't have that as not art.
Yeah, no, that's a place where I completely agree, because yeah, there's a huge kind of culture of video games should be narratively stimulating or narratively rich in a way that, you know, film or television is. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, sometimes it's really cool. I mean, I'm not like against that, but yeah, I mean, I think bringing up, you know, the movies with occasional action commands, like that's not
Yeah.
the pinnacle of gaming. And I think, well, I mean, there's some good examples of that, but you know, there's a lot more beauty and human ingenuity to be found and respected and loved in mind. And I don't know. It's a shame that I think that people, in order to kind of, I guess, bargain for more legitimacy, for their preferred art form or for like something they like, they kind of feel the need to judge it by the standards for something else.
Yeah. They need to make it seem more like movies, and I don't know if that is in tandem with motion capture, where actors are now playing roles in video games and sort of selling it from these. I guess it's not the gimmick accounts reporting the news, but just like whenever any of these tabloids or anything reporting on these actors being like, oh, this actor is playing this role within a video game. Not that they aren't still playing to the best of their acting ability, but I do think in a way of like, you're right, there was a little bit of a bargain where in the quest to respect video games as an art form, everyone has instead sort of pivoted to the closest art form, which would be film or TV, and pretending that the best video games are like that, when I think it's an entirely different metric we need to judge them by. I feel like most of the stuff I complain about on the show is maybe like a Twitter post or TikTok I saw years ago and still think about. But I remember when the first season of The Last of Us was coming out, the HBO show, there was somebody who made a TikTok like, oh my God, I can't believe there have been like a story this good. Like it was, I don't know, somebody who's into books or something, saying like, oh my God, I can't believe there was a story this good and this rich in video games. Like, why did nobody tell me? Do you guys have any other recommendations for like stories like this in games? And from a certain point of view, it's like, oh, that's kind of fun that you're trying to get into video games. I guess there are people out there that have just never bothered to play a game.
Are there any songs that you would recommend for beginners to listening to music?
That, but unironically, I love to take
Any like
recommendations.
songs for beginners?
Since you know a whole lot about more music than I do, I don't want to start anything, but I accidentally had a viral post. Every time I do something that goes viral that isn't YouTube related, it's always me like quoting someone else or posting a meme that I think everyone has seen. And I posted that one infograph of that person like trying to prove that Taylor Swift was on 4chan for like a long period of time.
Oh God.
And I posted it thinking like, oh yeah, this image that we're all aware of and we all have seen.
Yeah.
But now the tweet itself has like gotten a lot bigger, and I feel kind of bad because it's like, oh man, now it just seems like I just stole this person's screenshot. But I don't like, I don't know. I know Taylor Swift fans are a different breed altogether. I just kind of find her kind of annoying. Do you have any dog in this fight, so to speak?
You know, I think there's like an element to which Taylor Swift will get shit for things other artists do. I'll say that, but I'm not like particularly a fan of her newest stuff, all things considered.
I've heard like I think there are some fans of her that are like, this isn't really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's like I think recently she's kind of caught a lot more heat. Just because frankly, because I think she's at the top of the charts, and you know, I think there's a lot of discourse regarding, you know, all the alternate versions she'll make of the albums. I think, you know, basically as a ploy to kind of drive up sales and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think like she's frankly one of the biggest musicians literally ever. And for better or for worse, I think anyone in that position is gonna catch heat. But also, I mean, there is like a certain kind of mythical amount of attention she gets, which I think is like probably not necessary for both her health and also just the health of people who like care about her. Like, I don't know, I don't really understand why people care about whom she's dating. And that's like that's like the first thing. That's not a hot take. I think people have been wondering that about celebrity culture for decades.
Right,
but
and specifically her, it's been happening for like decades now.
yeah. I do think there are some things you'll find well, I don't know. I don't know. I want to say it this way because I feel like it's kind of inherently antagonizing, and I can't really elaborate on it right now. But I feel like there are occasionally times I'll see some people say stuff about Taylor Swift, and it often just comes off as like just straight up misogynistic.
Yeah,
but
I do also think
like,
there's some valid criticism that often gets like lumped in with that.
Yeah,
But
well,
that's not
that's
exclusive to her or music. I feel like there are a lot of things that like I also don't like this thing, but I'm not gonna like argue about it because then the worst people are gonna think I'm like on their side.
That's the thing, and I think I mean like, well, I mean I think another good example. Well, I guess one of the reasons I try not to be too negative about really popular music is I think back to like the way people talked about Justin Bieber in like 2013.
Yeah,
and like
who was a child,
but even if he wasn't a child, like. I don't know. I just never want to be like the fuddy-duddy who's like, oh man, all this new shit sucks. I miss when like I miss the whole joke. New music sucks. I miss when the biggest bands in the world were all having sex with teenagers. It's like it's.
Granted,
I don't know,
Taylor Swift did date that 17-year-old, so maybe she's bringing it back.
That's true.
She's bringing it back into style.
Yeah, so it's just I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I just don't want to care about it like that much.
Everything I've learned about her has been against my will.
Yeah, I mean, I love some of the early stuff. I mean, I mean to be fair, that's also what I grew up on. So like, I loved You Belong With Me as a kid. So
they would be blasting that shit on the speakers at our public pool all the time.
Oh yeah.
At the very least, I hope to get some.
That song is like a 3.5-minute Disney movie, Disney Channel original movie.
Yeah, that's what I've been using to describe. I think this is in a later video, so maybe I'm spoiling myself, but that's how I've been describing Netflix movies as of late, and maybe I've just seen a lot of bad ones that like a Netflix film sort of occupies the same space in the ecosystem as a Disney Channel original movie. Like I won't say that there isn't talent put into it and it isn't a movie, but like. Yeah, I think, like, streaming movies, more often than not Netflix movies, because, like, I don't know, I don't want to be the old dude who's like, oh, man, these teenagers are watching slop. But most of the stuff made for teenagers on Netflix is, in fact, slop.
I'm not even really familiar with any of them. I think I'm just old,
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I, like, happen across them, and someone's like, oh, let's watch this movie. And then, like, not the Suicide Squad. It's like Suicide Squad 2016, where the entire soundtrack is, like, just going on TikTok and searching by the most popular sounds. That being said, I am a fake fan because there's a lot of artists I became fans of because of TikTok edits. And if anything can come from this Taylor Swift fiasco, I'm glad we might get more Charlie music out of it. That is my stance. But as far as fiascos and updates about previous streams, since that is, I believe, everything that's happened in between. I did go to a Spirit Halloween.
There was the Mario Galaxy game remake.
Oh, yeah. Did you play any of that?
No, I didn't. I kind of don't want to, but I kind of also do want to. Well,
Yeah.
I love Mario Galaxy 1. I replayed that a couple years ago. And, I'm not super eager to replay it now, especially because we have 3D All-Stars, and that's kind of why I was a little cynical about it. I'm not as cynical because it does seem like they've really redone a lot of the visuals and kind of, put on a fresh new coat of paint. So I'm not as, like, cynical about its existence in the first place, but I don't know. I'm just not happy about the price tag. I think $40 for one of the games, I'm pretty sure, it's just insane.
Well, now that it's been released, do we know if it is like a remaster? Like, what is the deal with the game? I've seen like
depends on your
HD
definition.
textures. Yeah.
Yeah, they've upscaled a lot of textures. I mean, a lot of the at least the games are in 4K now, so it's visually different. And that's kind of exciting, but like, I think it's not like built from the ground up. But yeah, I honestly, remaster probably isn't too big of a stretch, all things considered.
So is the Mario Galaxy released as a part of this a different experience from the Mario Galaxy that's on 3D All Stars, or is it just a very literally a port of that?
I think it's, well, I mean, at 3D All Stars seem to have been just like just straight up emulation.
Okay.
This one seems to be like a formal port with, just kind of transferring a lot of things over.
I
Excuse
see.
me.
To get people ready for the movie.
Yeah. And as I say, it's in 4K now, at least on the Switch 2. I don't remember the initial FPS for the original game. I assume the FPS is more too. And yeah, there were some like weird lighting issues I saw people talking about, but altogether the game seems to like look a lot better. So yeah, I mean it's exciting in a lot of ways, but yeah, I guess it's just. I mean, this is gonna be the conversation for like every new game that comes out, I think. At least for a while, I guess, and either until people just like stop caring about how much the games cost and just start paying, or I don't know, like people are just so bored of complaining about it, they just don't complain anymore. Like the fact that these games cost as much as they do, I think is just, it's just unfortunate. I wasn't against. I'm okay with like $70 Donkey Kong. Like, I mean, I'm not like totally against like new huge AAA games being $70. I mean, it's not like. I prefer it to be 60, but I kind of understand why. But I don't know, when it's effectively a remake, or I guess kind of a remaster, it's just, I don't know, like paying $40. It's just I don't know. Only Nintendo can really charge that and like never put it on sale. You know,
60 going up to 70 and possibly 80 was just like the direction that the video games industry was going. But specifically Nintendo, who like doesn't really scale their prices. It just, everything is, if it releases for the Switch, it's 60. If it releases for the Switch 2, it's 70. If it has a Switch 2 edition, it's an additional 20, so 80. And if it's a major game, then it's just 80. And no matter what the quality of the game is, it's always going to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, they say that they're more open to scaling prices nowadays, but I don't believe them. I'll believe that when I see it.
We have to hope the new CEO is gonna do something, some kind of positive change.
Yeah.
Nothing ever happens.
Yeah, well,
that's what happened recently within the week, is I think that, if I remember correctly, that Xbox Game Pass raised their monthly subscription price to like $30, I think.
Wow.
And that has been what I've heard most of, or in context of Xbox, is that this keeps happening in comparison to like how good of a deal Xbox is compared to Nintendo being worse of a deal, but Nintendo having a higher quality of like work life, or just people enjoying working there, less people getting laid off. I don't know how true that is, but in comparison to that, is that the Xbox
I've heard
cycle,
that kind of narrative.
Yeah, the Xbox cycle is that they'll buy up a new company and then it'll be all their games are on Game Pass, and then they start losing money because of, I don't know if it's because of Game Pass or because they're buying up all these studios and they can't cover all the debt. And then they have to lay off a ton of people, and they ostensibly liquidate these companies. It happened to like Activision and thus Toys for Bob, which is why people are very much like clamoring for a new Spyro and a new Crash. I know we didn't really talk about it on the pod, but that was another. I saw people posting about like, oh man, there's new official Spyro art for the anniversary. This has to mean that we're finally getting Spyro 4. Because that used to be the, I mean, that was the projected cycle, right? Of all of these remakes, is when you're a studio and you want to come back and revive a character, the first thing you do is just get their most popular and widely loved game, and then remake that in a new engine, and then, if that sells well, use that engine to make a new game, right? They remade Battle for Bikini Bottom and then used it to start building new SpongeBob 3D platformers. They remade the original Crash Bandicoot trilogy to use that same engine to make a new Crash Bandicoot. And it seemed going like that for a while, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen with Spyro, although they did do a Spyro Reignited trilogy. Maybe it just happened to line up with the moment that Toys for Bob like went out of business. But this Xbox has sort of been hemorrhaging money. This happens a lot. And they raised the game price, or sorry, the Game Pass price to like 30, and then within like a day or within that same day, the page where people go to cancel their subscription crashed because it had so much traffic. So people just couldn't cancel their subscriptions. And maybe this is just like doomerism, but I've also been seeing a lot of posts like this, the one we're looking at right now, of the Xbox sections of GameStops or Walmarts either being filled with Nintendo games or DVDs or PlayStation games that I've heard the narrative that the Xbox is just done making consoles. Like, this is going to be their last one. Not that they're going to go out of business, because I think Xbox as a service, ideally, because this always happens whenever a console market's about to go under, is like you hope they go third party. I hope that Xbox Game Pass as a service will, because you are going to play Game Pass on PC, but I hope that like you could play Game Pass on PlayStation or Game Pass on Switch 2 even. That's the ideal.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously,
that'd be kind of lit.
from a sympathetic and like nostalgic standpoint, I don't want Xbox to like stop. I mean, I don't
want
know
Xbox to grow old.
Yeah, because I've been getting Xboxes since I was a kid. That was always my main thing. And I think we talked about this on a previous pod that somebody asked me like if the Switch 2 is worth it. Whereas I have always had a console and then a Nintendo, right? I had my original Xbox and the Wii, and then my 360 and the Wii, my 360 the Wii U, my Xbox One the Wii U, and then Xbox One Switch and Xbox Series X, and now the Switch 2. And I could also play games on my computer. But there are a large proponent of people who own the Switch who exclusively play video games on the Switch. And I guess if you do that, if the Switch is your video game machine, then I do think the Switch 2 is worth it so that you can play more games and play them a lot better. But if you're somebody who like plays their games on their computer or on their Xbox and then also has a Switch, if you're not like a streamer or whatever, you don't need, or like a hardcore fanboy, I suppose, then as of right now, there's no big exclusive that I think for the average consumer is worth buying the console for.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's one of the reasons why I've been surprised that like the Xbox is still a thing.
Yeah,
I guess I don't know. I think it's just honestly Microsoft changing its business strategy. And that's why, I remember thinking about, I think, the historic narrative or the idea or the model of how, a lot of these consoles get sold is that you create a console and like have a good amount of games that can only be played on that console, which then in turn sell the console. But I don't really think that's how it's done anymore. I mean, it's because so many games, eventually make their way onto other platforms. I mean, even games that start out as Sony exclusives have made their way onto Steam. I remember as a kid, I'm like, oh crap, I have to get like a PSP or a Vita or a PS2 to play Persona, and nowadays all that shit's on Steam. And I shouldn't call it shit, but
all that
like,
garbage, that slop,
all that garbage, that bullshit. But like, and even like games that are initially sold as like, oh, this is gonna be a Sony exclusive. I mean, I remember Marvel's Spider-Man going on PC. That like blew my mind. I was not expecting that at all. But yeah, no, so many of these games that initially I thought were only meant for, like even Sony. I mean, Microsoft even more so. I mean, I remember like Jet Set Radio going on PC. Like that was really surprising to me. But I think exclusives aren't necessarily, the end all be all nowadays, or maybe at least for PlayStation versus Xbox.
These
companies
or at the very least, don't think they are at the very least.
Yeah, well, that's a good way of putting it, because I think that PlayStation, like if I had to buy either a PS5 or a Series X, I'm gonna buy a PS5 because there's still a couple of games that are only on the PS5 that intrigue me, but there's nothing on the Xbox Series X. Yeah. And also the Xbox Series X is a terrible name.
I currently have the 3 mainline consoles that are being supported right now, and the Xbox is sort of like my hub. For a while there, the Series X is like the size and bulkiness of a computer tower, and whenever I would stream the Xbox Series X like in my room, it would shut off the power in my room because it was just taking up too much power. So before I figured out to just like plug it in the hallway, I was trying to pivot and be like, oh, okay, I'll play all these modern games on my computer. I have a pretty up-to-date computer. But I got tired of dealing with like load times, and I do think there is a level of, because I was never a PC gamer, that I sort of got, because I never had a personal computer, that now I did when I started streaming and it became like a job thing, that I've never had the wherewithal or just no power to be able to understand how games run properly on PC, that I do think there is just a level of convenience to having consoles that will never be replaced with a PC. The fact that you could just like, and maybe this isn't right because some games just straight up don't run. Like I heard that even Monster Hunter on PlayStation had some issues, maybe the same issues I had on PC, that for the most part, when you buy a game on console, you know that it will run on that console. For the most part. Whereas sometimes with Steam, it's a crapshoot. Like, you can buy a game, and sometimes your computer just, like, won't... It'll just show you a black screen.
I think Steam games and PC games in general, like, have a habit of misbehaving more. I think it probably has to do with just the amount of variety that exists in the hardware. Like, potentially one CPU can handle something, one GPU can handle something. I mean, admittedly, I'm not like super well versed in what specifically would cause problems, but I've definitely had problems. I know people who say they try to play a game, it just doesn't work at all. You know, I think there's a lot of stuff under the hood that you kind of have to deal with yourself that kind of filters a good amount of people out that you don't have to worry about on console, at least most of the time. I mean, you know, the counter argument to this is, you know, some of these consoles have had like an infamous lack of support, but I think in general, you know, there's just, because all the consoles are built the same way, you know, there's just more consistency.
Yeah. I could be wrong. I think the Xbox Ally came out because I heard that it was going to launch at the same time as Silksong, so I have to assume so. Even though most people weren't playing Silksong on that. Maybe if they wanted people to buy it, they should have made it like an exclusive or something. But in comparison to home consoles with the Switch 2, it's sort of a tough deal. But in comparison of like handheld consoles, if that is a big deal to you, then the Switch 2 is a much better deal than the Steam Deck or the Xbox Ally. Or even like the PlayStation Portal, I think is what it's called, where you have to be in the same house. I don't know, cloud-based gaming. That... I imagine we're not going to get any more. I don't know. Maybe we could get a new Xbox, one final thing. But the thing is, like, they're always just, like, a little bit more powerful. And I think that's where the disappointment from the Switch 2 comes from, is that Nintendo's been the only series of consoles that is at least, like, doing something different each time. As opposed to just like, oh, the console, but it's more powerful. Granted, it's ironic that, or I guess not ironic, but fortuitous, that the only PlayStation 5 games that are remaining exclusives are the ones that very literally have to be because they use the gimmicks of the console and the controller, which is the Astrobot series, because those are like the tech demo games. And Astrobot is one of my favorites. I think that's my game of the year for last year. I think legitimately the PS5 is worth buying for Astrobot. By that same metric, I think the Switch 2 is worth buying for Bonanza, but not for like the average consumer, I suppose. But my point being, I have all the three mainline consoles. So I use my Xbox as like a hub. That's where I play third-party games. And then if I use the Switch 2 or the PlayStation, I use them to play exclusives. I use the PlayStation 5 to play Astrobot and nothing else. And then I use the Switch 2 to play games that are only available or have exclusive features on the Switch 2. And that's sort of the setup I have now. And assuming that they don't make any more Xboxes, then I'll just keep playing games on the... It's hard to imagine games getting bigger and more powerful, but I mean, I imagine that's going to happen. I feel like we've been plateauing for a while anyway.
Yeah, there's like something about, I don't know. I mean, I guess like the increase in processing power, there probably are effects, but they're not as immediately visible as they used to be. Because yeah, I mean, for example, like Bonanza, apparently the reason it wasn't on the Switch 1 was because like the destructible environment was just a little bit too much for the Switch to handle.
Right. And that I do believe.
So, yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, it's like a lot of like information that kind of has to be stored and like managed at once. I imagine that's probably difficult, as opposed to just like a static environment that doesn't change.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I think that, you know, we talked about it. Like, I think visually things have kind of, you know, slowed down, or at the very least, it looks a little bit less of the improvement is a little bit less each time, if that makes sense. And also nowadays, it's not that hard to just kind of take a game that already exists and just like increase the max frame rate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
I think I prefer that to like a remastered.
I think that's also another reason why you're not having. I think consoles aren't as distinct in their identity anymore. if that makes sense. You know, I
Yes.
think, you know, in the past, like, I feel like the Xbox 360 era was very defined. Like, everyone remembers the 360 era as like a unique thing, but not so much like, well, I mean, I don't even know anyone. I guess you have it, one, but I barely hear people talk about the Xbox Series X. Like,
Yeah.
I don't hear people talk about like that kind of console war anymore.
For the record, I ended up getting that console because I have been playing GTA Online since 2015, a decade ago. And that game started, or that online service started on the 360 and the PS3. And there was maybe like a month period where you could transfer your save, your character, to next-gen consoles and also PC. And I think back and forth, so you could back up your character. But there was some issue that, like, it's a lot easier to hack the game on PC, and people were getting, like, millions of dollars in-game, which obviously they care about their bottom line of in-game purchases, so they wanted to stop that. So they made it so that you can't transfer anymore, and there was, like, a transfer window. And that transfer window began again with being able to transfer your save from Xbox One to the Xbox Series X and from PS4 to PS5. You can't transfer to PC anymore. That's why, like, every week on stream, I've been playing a PC save that I started in 2020, and I've been slowly trying to get everything I owned on the console version back just by grinding. And even now that, like, it doesn't matter anymore because I prefer to have the save on PC, so that way that can live forever. If they at any point shut down the servers, there's always going to be fan servers on PC, and it's harder to manage on console. That the reason I bought the Series X to begin with was so I could transfer my GTA Online save and under the amount of time I was given, because I assumed that if I waited any longer that the window would shut and I wouldn't be able to transfer my save, and it would be stuck on last-gen console, because when the transfer window for Series X began, that's when they shut down the servers for 360 and PS3. So I was like, okay, well, I got to transfer it now, because if I don't, then the save is just going to be lost eventually. Yeah. That was the main reason.
Interesting. It's complicated. It's all like... Yeah, I mean, I kind of miss the era where, like, the new console felt like it really, you know, shook things up. You know, maybe I'm just, like, not paying as much attention. I mean, it could be that, but yeah, it just doesn't seem that...
I really just like think it is the exclusives. I know you said earlier that exclusives, like, aren't as big of a deal, but I think that sells a console. Like, I know it's very simple,
Yeah, no,
but...
I think you are right in at least the way we perceive it. I guess, I mean, I don't know. I guess I would predict that maybe, like, I mean, maybe like someone in Microsoft just thought like maybe we could make more money instead of like pooling all this stuff into pulling all these resources into this dedicated hardware. We can just kind of have it as like an option you can have, but we're not as aggressive about it because we literally own fucking Windows, you know? Like, I don't know. I think maybe that's part of it. You know, I think, you know, what we've seen in the past 20 years is how many ways there are to monetize video gaming. And like, I think maybe there are other ways that kind of just keep things in the green, keep growth that don't necessarily involve like selling a lot of consoles. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's me just guessing, though. I mean, it's not like I've really kind of looked at the figures themselves, but I don't know. There just doesn't seem to be as much of an attempt in the first place to really kind of push consumers to go for a certain console for any specific reason.
Yeah. But that was always the case up until recently, is that like the game sold the console. That was the main thing. And there were additional gimmicks that people sold, and I do think that a big, like, from the, I don't know, was it the 6th gen, 7th gen? I can never remember like when the generations start counting, of the PS3 and the Wii era, where the Wii really locked into a casual market, and there were families that were buying PS3s just because they were also Blu-ray players, and it was cheaper than getting and buying a Blu-ray player. That's
crazy to me.
These additional features, like Xbox having like Hulu early on, were part of what sold them, that I think it sort of rotted their brains. And now everyone's all about hardware. It's these PC gamer guys that care about like frames per second and graphical fidelity that have sort of like melted the idea of it, that at least Nintendo and to some degree PlayStation do exclusives that make people want to buy the consoles. I've been seeing a lot of. I actually think Silent Hill F came out between episodes, but I don't know anyone personally who's played it. I've just seen a lot of posts about it, and I don't know. It looks good. Like I haven't played a Silent Hill proper. I have the PS5. Maybe I will play it. I don't know at what point, but just maybe I will. But that's more interesting to me than like any gimmick that, like, it's cool that you can use a Joy-Con as a mouse and aim with a mouse, but that's not why I bought the console. Like, I don't really care that much about that.
Imagine a guy who does. It's like, oh man, they sold me
Really
when I
wants to
found out
play
I can use a
Metroid Prime with
Joy-Con as
mouse
a mouse.
controls.
Yeah.
But if we are entering the final leg of this episode of Switch to Ultra, just doing additional updates from the previous, I believe it was the previous week, and this one first, from Gino for Smash and Mario Kart World, saying, remember this leak I tweeted not so long ago? Yeah, it's not only fake, but I made it myself. First of all, made it myself. I made it to see if people would consider the possibility of Mallow and Gino coming to the game like Mario Kart World, coming to a game like Mario Kart World, likely now that the Super Mario RPG remake has been out for a while. Says I made it, but used AI to make pre-existing renders move so I could create original poses for them. Did edit some of them a bit. Trying to just take credit like, oh, well, I did kind of edit it a little bit. So both of the leaks we covered last week were AI, which we assumed anyway.
Yeah, it's really, it makes you sad, you know? I don't know. I mean, you know, I kind of am interested in, like, well, I mean, I think I don't know how many people like really believed it, frankly, but no. I think they probably were successful in their pursuit to get people talking about Gino and Mallow in Mario Kart.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about all the fake image leaks is, like, even back in the day, I don't think people believed the image leaks as much as it was like, oh, this is a discussion piece, right? Just to get us through the week. Or whenever there was a 4chan post where they used like riddles or like had a really out there idea, it would at least get people discussing it. So it's less about like, oh man, is this leak real? And more like, oh, could Mallow and Gino be in this game? But I think it went about it in a really cowardly and annoying way. Yeah.
You know, I've really switched up on the idea of Mallow and Gino being in like at least Mario Kart. You know, it's interesting. I think you know, I've heard people talk about it. People who I think talk about Mario games with other people more often than I do. How like it's so almost like it's seen as kind of like naive to even want that because it's just like never gonna happen. I think in a lot of the eyes of a lot of people. But I was watching a video and this guy is just talking about. He's like why not? Like why can't we have that? And I mean, there are discussions to be had about just like, I don't know, Nintendo seems to kind of have a thing against that, but I don't know. I don't think anyone would get hurt if they got over that and added Mallow and Gino to Mario Kart.
Well, the thing that bugs me,
that would make my day.
The thing that bugs me in general about the original image like we showed last week is like, they already kind of look like their official renders anyway. Like, it wouldn't be, like, you didn't need to, it's the AI that gets me. Like, you did not need to use AI for this. You could just use the models from other shit and then put them in, because people already thought it was fake anyway.
Yeah. I guess the idea of using AI to create a separate model, like, at the very least, I mean, it creates like a theory or creates like evidence, even if it's, you know, falsified evidence that, oh, this is actually like a new render because this character is being kind of put into the game for the first time, as opposed to just, I don't know, like, I mean, I don't know if Nintendo's ever just like used a PNG that already exists for this kind of thing.
No.
So, I mean, I get why they do it. They did it, not necessarily saying I, you know, endorse it, but yeah.
It's just, well, I mean, no real news other than a confirmation. Like, we knew this was going to be fake, or we knew it was at the time.
Yeah.
But it seems we're thoroughly in that era of fake leaks now.
I think one thing that's going to be kind of annoying, and this people might get mad at me for saying this, is that we're probably going to, like, get to the point where people make leaks for stuff that, like, look better than what actually comes out.
Yeah.
At least, like, the basic screenshot. You're like, oh, shit, that looks awesome. And then, like, the actual thing comes out, and you're like, eh. It's like, oh, it didn't like, I don't know. I mean, there's that like Sora 2 shit, and basically like it's able to come up with,
It's just
I don't want to say
horrifying.
entirely convincing. I mean, basically what it does is just train on a bunch of videos of like Super Mario 64, so it's able to kind of like mimic it. But I don't know, it's crazy how much has happened in so little time.
But that's the extent. I mean, if we're circling back to the leaks, but something we like barely touched on, I just sort of like noted because I said like, oh, I'm gonna go get one, and I'm looking at them right now. Is that I think it was after last week, or maybe it started last week. Is GameStop started rolling out the shiny Koraidon and Miraidon, the Scarlet and Violet box legendary codes, and I have a lot of. I feel very connected to events like this because as a kid, me and my friends would always go to the local mall and like the smell of soft pretzels and go into the GameStop to get that Celebi event where you could get Celebi and Heart Gold and Soul Silver and then eventually transfer it into Black and White. Yeah, and I got the shiny Entei and Suicune. I think one of them fell on my birthday and I went for my birthday. I think I missed the shiny Raikou. That there is a certain connectivity to physically going to a GameStop and DS download style obtaining the event Pokemon. And I've always said that Pokemon is more of a social thing, more of a community game than anything else. That I think everyone, if you ask someone like what their favorite moment in a Pokemon game was or what their fondest Pokemon memory is, I don't think they would say something that was like a piece of dialogue from the game, like, oh, I like when this character said this. It's probably a very personal story or like something randomly generated that maybe not could have only happened to them, but only happened to them amongst their friends, or like a moment they had with their friends. And that's why it's been hard for me to play Scarlet and Violet, like what I thought about it, because I think if I played Scarlet and Violet, I mean, I have been playing Violet by myself on stream to get the box legendary that I don't have, even though now I have the shiny. But it's a lot less fun just playing through the game, whereas when the game came out in 2022, which is now 3 years ago, I was never without friends. Like, I was playing it online constantly with friends, and I had a lot of fun. And the same applies to Sword and Shield, that I don't think I could actually review or parse these games honestly because I wasn't experiencing the single-player experience. All the fun I had was the fun I had with friends. And the same thing applies to a game like GTA Online. Like, I don't think I could place it or say it's one of my favorite games or I had a really fun time, because any game can be fun when you're playing with friends.
But can some games be more fun than others?
Yes, we call those friend slop. And they're designed for it. That I even like when I was living in California and they did the shiny codes for the Sword and Shield box legendaries, because I guess they do it every time there's a new generation or a new game about to come out or a couple of years have passed, that I went with my roommates and we each got like a code, even though a bunch of them don't have the game. And I know I said that last time, like, as a bit, but what actually happened, and I think I told this story last week, is that my mom texted me because she works by a GameStop one morning, the rollout happened for the codes, and she asked me if there was, like, a new game coming out, a new game release. And I said, like, oh, no. Oh, but today is that one Pokemon code day. Like, there's an event for these shiny Pokemon. Come to find out, what I did in between episodes is I went to my local GameStop, the same GameStop we were at for the midnight release, so shout out. I think after stream on Thursday, after I played Bonanza, or maybe on Friday, and I went into the GameStop to try and get the DK and Pauline amiibo, because it's been a while now and I think I can get it for cheaper, and also I'm almost done with Bonanza, so I was like, I might as well get it. And I went in there to ask for the codes, and they were fully out of codes. And which doesn't surprise me in the new age of like Pokemon scalpers. But what the person told me, he was very kind, is that each GameStop location got 50 codes in totality. And
wow.
That's why we have rollouts like this. And after, I guess that's not as, once this was announced, GameStop announced round 2. More codes have arrived as of Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. So this was like 2 days ago. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday. And as soon as they announced this on Saturday, I'm like, okay, we need to go. And we immediately went to the GameStop. and we got 2 of the 4 that were left. There were 4
Wow,
there,
okay.
and we don't even get physical codes. I'm holding the receipts right now. They're just printed on receipts. So I do have
Wow,
2 codes,
okay.
one for Scarlet, one for Violet. And I guess you could say I'm part of the problem because I have 2 codes, but not to the degree people are getting them. Even though, in theory, they're only supposed to give 1 code per person. So I don't know if these people are, like, rolling up with a huge gang of people to get multiple codes.
I came here with my cousin's like barber to get a Pokemon.
Well, you did the bit last week of like, let's just hire a bunch of homeless people, just get a bunch of codes. That
did you like go with your girlfriend or something?
Yes,
to
yeah,
get 2
yes.
codes or
Yes,
okay,
we got
yeah,
2
makes
codes.
sense.
And in all fairness, I did buy a double pack a couple years ago, so I do have both Scarlet and Violet, and I paid for both, so I'm basically 2 people, as far as the Pokemon Company is concerned. But therein lies the rub, is that people have been upset at GameStop about this, but there have been, well, we don't need that image right there, that, I think it was Joe Merrick, the main author of Cerebi, which is a website we've talked about before, that has been covering this and getting information. Yeah, friend of the show, friend of us, that kind of pushed GameStop to make this statement. This is due to overwhelming demand. The first wave of free shiny Koraidon and shiny Miraidon code cards went very quickly. We saw your feedback and worked with Pokemon to secure a second wave. Pokemon has given us a limited number of receipt codes, approximately 50 per store. GameStop is committed to distributing every code we receive and commit to providing more of the fans if Pokemon makes additional codes available. So the main thing is that it was not GameStop that decided to have only 50 codes per store. That is the amount of codes that were sent to each individual GameStop by the Pokemon Company. And I've seen a lot of debate and discourse about this, about what level of severity we should go through to prevent this. The idea that the Pokemon Company is out of touch because they couldn't foresee this happening. And I agree, but my meeting them halfway is more that, like, oh, they should just give more codes to the GameStop so that people can go and get the codes. But I've seen people go to the extreme, this isn't at that extreme, just extreme for me, of saying like, oh, well, this just should have been a mystery gift event. Why was this even an in-person event anyway? But like, I don't know. I think they're fun. I think physically going to a GameStop to get codes like this is a part of the experience. And if all of these important or like rare Pokemon, shiny locked Pokemon, all these event Pokemon, if they just were released over the internet, I think there is a little bit of a magic. I would find them less interesting because then you're just sitting at home and downloading them. And then comes the argument of people being like, oh, what, I have to go outside? I don't want to have to do that. That's not convenient. It's like, yeah, it isn't convenient, but there is, I don't know, maybe it's nostalgia because I've been going to GameStop for Pokemon events my entire life, but I like this is going to sound so lame, but the thrill of going to a GameStop for these Pokemon events. And there's a little bit of a sense of community there, too. I don't think that they need to fully correct and be like, okay, no more in-person events. But, you know, just send out more codes. That's my stance. I don't know if you have a different one.
Well, my stance, and yeah, I'm kind of the kind of person that's a little bit more cynical about this stuff, is it's you know, it makes everything a lot more difficult and expensive than it needs to be. Because like frankly, you don't, what you're basically doing is creating something that could literally be distributed to millions, literally maybe tens of millions. Now there's millions of people who bought, tens of millions of people who bought the game probably, but like it's not like all of them are gonna like log in to get the Pokemon, but you are theoretically distributing to like an audience that could go up to the millions, and you can do it seemingly, I assume, I mean, I'm almost 99.999% certain, I assume it's a lot easier to just upload it to the game servers as like a free download, as opposed to you know, distributing like limited codes and pieces, like printing shit out and then, you know, giving them all to different stores across the country. I mean, the logistics are probably a lot more expensive, if anything. Well, yeah, that just to start there. Then you have the problem of the fact that there's so few in the first place. Like 50 per store is not that many. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe in some parts it's not that big of a deal, but I think to myself, there's probably like 6 or 7 GameStops within like 30 miles of me. Oh wow, yeah. There's probably a good amount of GameStops, and the amount of people that live in Miami-Dade County is millions. So it's like it does really limit the amount of people that could go in. I assume that they're out. They really want to do the in-person thing. I don't blame them, because you are right that it is a different experience. I think what they did back when I was a kid was you just had to connect to the local Wi-Fi or something like that. And that was enough for the mystery gift to work. And I think that's a lot better. I don't know if there's an issue why they can't do it now, but if they can, it's a lot better to do it that way.
Yeah. Well, that was, I think back in the day, each GameStop was given a distribution cart. So they would be sent like a physical DS cart that they would put in a local DS like used for the building, and then connect to the Wi-Fi so everyone in a radius that was inside the building could get the same event through like their wireless, the DS download technology. Whereas even before that, for other Pokemon events like the Mew distribution, these game stores, I guess before GameStop, maybe like EB Games or something like that, were given just carts of the game where the PC box was just full of Mews, and then they would like physically trade with someone else, and they would just trade like
That's so funny.
Yeah, and they would need like the connective the GBA, or sorry, the Game Boy cable. I know there's a specific name, connector cable, maybe something like that. And then they
Power cable.
There's a specific name for like plugging the Game Boy into the Game Boy to do multiplayer, which was only ever used for Pokemon. Like I'm sure there were other games that you could use the Game Boy connector cable.
Game Link
the
cable.
Link cable, yes, the Link cable. That, and then the DS came around, you could do wireless, and even like the 3DS and DSi. That, I think in general, when we're talking about Pokemon, that like distribution events have been getting less exciting anyway, because at least with like other games, and I guess if they did it now, people would argue that there was DLC kept in the game that was sold later, and then they would make a stink. And also, if there was a hidden event, like a legendary event where you physically go to a location to catch that Pokemon, as opposed to going into the Pokemart where they just hand it to you. Right now, they don't even do that. Now it just immediately goes to your box. That somebody day one nowadays would immediately find that part of the game and like hack it in immediately. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's just the way things are now. It's harder to have secrets within games, and we're sort of just moving past that. But at least, at the very least, you do physically have to go to the GameStop. And I don't know, maybe it's a silly thing to care about, but I like going. And
I think it is sweet. I think like the ideal situation. I mean, I remember like chatting, like talking to people. I was a little young, so I don't think I really like, I was with my mom, so it's not like I was like gonna like hang out and chat with people who work there. Yeah. But I could imagine now. When we went to the Switch 2 release, we had some like friendly chats.
That was
with,
fun
like, some
too.
people there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I think it can be a fun way to facilitate that, fans meeting up.
So much so
yeah, in
that
a lot of ways,
when we went to the GameStop for this event, that the guy working there was like telling us about the Legend ZA midnight release, and saying that like he was going to be hosting TCG like battles, like the trading card, and then distributing shiny legendaries from a previous event, like redistributing them. He was going to transfer them from his original 3DS to Pokemon Home to like give out to people.
That's cool.
That like I'm getting the game digitally, but I thought like maybe I should just go to the Legend ZA midnight release just to hang out.
Yeah, just like chill. Yeah,
because I went there for the Scarlet Violet midnight release. If people were playing Smash Bros, there were snacks there. I don't know if like GameStop tells them to do it. Here's the thing. I said this too.
I
that
get
like
the feeling that it's probably like something just the people who work there put on.
Yeah,
but that's just my hunch.
I know every Nintendo tuber has like a horrifying story of working at GameStop and how much they hated it because they had to like give people chump change for whatever they were transferring in. But beyond that, like, I think it would be fun to work at one of those. And maybe just because I haven't worked retail in a while, and I imagine if you're not like a very traditional like white dude, that people will give you a lot of shit like, you don't know anything about video games, But I think
I think what I usually hear the complaints about is it's definitely the like the corporate culture. Like I think people get kind of fucked over a lot. There's just like there are a lot of horror stories about GameStop, and I don't know. I don't know if like it's particularly egregious compared to other retail stores. Honestly, it probably isn't, but it definitely depends. they probably don't give you as good benefits as like certain grocery stores do. I think those tend to
Mm-hmm.
be like the best kind of like stores to work at in terms of like, you know, the benefits you
Yeah.
get and stuff.
I guess really any place that doesn't get a lot of business other than big events is fun. Where like they probably every time I've been in there, I'm like the only person in that GameStop, so they maybe get like 5 customers a day at different times. So it's just like killing a lot of time. And you know, if you work for a company like that, sure you can ask for a raise, but you're always going to get a steady rate. It's not like, oh, the GameStop didn't make any money today, we're not going to pay you. Like they have to.
Yeah,
And working at a place like that, we're like, oh, now there's a midnight release where there's going to be a lot of people. Let's make an event out of it. I don't know. Maybe I'm romanticizing having a normal job now that I've been a YouTuber for long enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of like shit you kind of have to go through too. But I mean, I'll admit, you know, I think there have been times where, you know, like working retail has been rewarding in its own way. It's just
Yeah.
you kind of, you know, it's not always fun. You know, it is a job.
Yeah,
but-
I think it's less about it being difficult and more about it being mind-numbing. Because I think there's only a handful of times when I was working retail that I was like worked to the bone, and I was like, oh my god, that rush was awful. Whereas more often than not, the worst times I had was just when we got like when there were 3 customers in a day, and I'd have to stand there and look busy. I think those were the worst moments.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think also just depends on whether your manager is like chill or not. You know, I've heard. I mean, because the thing is, like, it depends. Well, I mean, for like big businesses, like a lot of it really has to do with it. You know, how stressed out your manager is and how cool your manager is, and you know those kind of things sometimes go hand in hand. But you know, if they're constantly having people breathe down their neck, you know, they might kind of like take it out on the you know general kind of customer facing employees.
Yes.
Or if it's all kind of chill, like they probably won't, since they're not the business owner, they probably don't really give that much of a shit if the employees are kind of, you know, slacking off, not really doing as much as they theoretically should be. But you know, that's often a toss up. You know, it could go either way.
Oppressive corporate system. I think I just have been working from home for so long that I'm like, oh, it would be nice to work at a game store. But I think like everyone, when they're getting into collecting games as a kid, thinks that's like the pinnacle. They're like, oh, I want to work at GameStop.
Like,
that's where all the games
about
are.
It as a kid.
Yeah,
I'm kind of glad I never did, because I think to myself like, I probably would have gotten sick of working at a game store really fast.
Yeah,
like.
At least you know when all the major releases are. But it just said, you know.
Yeah, I wonder if they get a discount. It's probably not that good. I mean, like I assume that, you know, Nintendo games at the very least, they probably have like a really strict MSRP. So I doubt they get like employees get like a good discount on games, if any.
Yeah. Also, when I was there,
Maybe
it's sort
merch.
of unrelated because like this is less about scalpers. I think it's just like their rollout. But I asked them about the Donkey Kong Bonanza amiibo with Pauline, just to be like, oh, you know, well, let's go in here and buy something so that way we're not just coming here for the code and bugging them. And he told me that he was like, oh, I can look in the system because we don't have one. He said like, oh, there aren't any Bonanza amiibos in a 30-mile radius of us. And I was like, okay,
wow.
Well, it doesn't seem that worth it then. Or I could order it online. That was what he said to do for the most part. And that's not even like a point about anything. I just thought I should bring that up as well.
It always sucks facing customers when you don't have the thing they want.
Yeah, I can go check in the back, and by that I mean go in the back and just do a spin. Also, before we did say this one was going to be shorter, but before we end off, I also forgot to show this, that I believe the Tokyo Game Show happened late September, and I remember like before that happened, Sakurai said something like, I think it was a poor translation or just like poor tense, said he was going to like show off a game there, and then everyone started freaking out, and he's like, okay, just to reiterate, it's not going to be a new game, I'm just showing off the games that are winning awards. But while he was there was a huge setup, like physical setup there for Kirby Air Riders, and this image here, I don't know if we haven't seen it or not, but I think the only amiibo they showed off in the September Direct were the Kirby and Bandana Waddle Dee on the Wingstar and Warp Star amiibos, and these are the exact same poses as the amiibos. So I imagine this is an early look at the Meta Knight and Night Star amiibo, what it's going to look like. And
it looks like it.
Going into the game, like, it really depends on how important you think amiibo are. They really aren't. They're just for aesthetic purposes at this point. But it is nice to have, like, with each individual game, especially since I got the Street Fighter ones that don't do anything. I've set up a precedent now that I want my main...
just not do anything.
I mean, they unlock costumes in the game, I think. So not
Okay.
much.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
the my main in Kirby Air Riders hypothetically is Meta Knight on the wheelie ball. And I think these amiibos are like $40 or something because it comes with
Wow.
the machine and the rider. That if I want to get, if they even have wheelie, if I want to get Meta Knight on wheelie, I have to get Meta Knight with this thing and then a character on the wheelie bike if I want to have an amiibo. I do like the idea of stop and swapping them, right? The little Skyliner swap force. But maybe I
Yeah,
just get
absolutely.
Meta Knight and Nightstar. That is the exclusive updates on Kirby Air Riders. But I mean, I'm fully ready to wrap this up in a nice little bow unless you have anything additional to add on this episode of Switch to
I'm
Ultra.
good.
In
I'm
episode
good.
27. And then we'll be back. Like I said, next week is the final episode of Switch to Ultra before Legend ZA comes out. Now, granted, that one's going to be a double-length stream for me. I think the upcoming Thursday is also going to be double-length just so I can, like, actually finish Donkey Kong Bonanza. At least for the
I'm
most part, at
waiting
least
for your
get to...
opinion on it.
Yeah, because I've fully completed everything aside from the feast layer, and I haven't chased K. Rool yet. So I think that's
Okay.
doable within a stream if I just elongate the stream. And then the week after that, I'm going to do another double-length stream for ZA, so that'll be like 6 hours. But I'm not going to play any over the weekend. I won't be back to playing the game until Tuesday. So whatever we talk about 2 Mondays from now is just going to be my first 6 hours in the game. And because I'm streaming, I'm going to be reading all the useless dialogue. So we'll see how far we each get. And this will just be additional thoughts. And we'll update it each week because I want to be playing it more and more. But we will be back here every Monday. On the Monday, every Monday, on the Monday. I have been your co-parent, BH Ultra.
And I have been your co-parent, Switchy.
And I am hanging up again.
Bye.